do right this time, I'll come back as a superhero. Or, people have all kind of weird things, but they know that there's eternal life. That's what they believe. Then another train of thought was people said, you know what? I don't believe there's going to be a resurrection of the dead. And the guy said, I do, because when I come back again, how about that reincarnation once again? I'm going to come back and I'm going to come back and I'm going to marry James's sister, because I already told her I was going to marry. All kind of crazy stuff. Well, that's not the thing I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is prophecy. And the reason I mentioned prophecy is because these are things that foretell the future. There are three major religions in the world today. Three major religions. These are the religions that have more people than anybody else. The first is Hinduism. Thousands of people, millions of people in Hinduism. Then there's Islam. Thousands of people, millions of people in Islam. And then there's Christianity. But, I came from a position, I didn't believe there was a God that existed. I didn't believe in God. And so after I realized there was a God existed, I realized I had to talk to him and ask him to show himself to me, because I didn't know whether it was Buddha, Muhammad, Krishna, Zenzora. I didn't know who he was. And I said, but you know what? I know he exists, and I believe that you have a purpose for my life, but I need to know what it is. In the meantime, I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing. So if you want to let me know about this better life that you have for me, I give you my permission to rack me up if you have to. That means hurt me, because I'm hard-headed and I'm stubborn. Well, one day I was putting gas in the back of my Mustang, and as I was putting gas in the back of my Mustang, this car came in the service station behind me. And the service station came behind me, and I looked at him and said, oh, no, I know he's going to stop. A thought came to me, but he didn't stop. I said, no, I know he stopped coming in here like this, And I looked around, and he was about 6 feet from me and still coming. Oh! So I didn't panic, no problem. Cool, calm, collected. Right away, I was going to dart out the way, but I realized I was standing in gas. So I said, okay, that's okay, I can't run. But I bent down, I was getting ready to jump up and just stand on both cars when they collided. And I said, if I do that, and when I bent down, I remember I was standing in gas. But my feet felt secure, but I said, but if I slip, that means the car is going to catch my knees, or catch my hips, or catch my chest, or my head. So I just put one leg in front of the other, raised my knees above the bumper, boom, he hit me. Whew. Blood was gushing out of my legs. I'm serious, gushing out of both legs. One leg was slightly crushed, the other one was banged up, looking all bad and everything, I didn't panic. Kid hops out, I'm only about 22. He hops out of the car, he's about 19 years of age. Ah! He panics. I said, hey, don't panic, just put me on the trunk of my car, because I can't hang here all day. Now that summer, I had realized that God really existed. So I talked to God, and I already told you, I told God he had my permission, like I can give God permission, to rack me up to get my attention. Well, he laid me on the trunk of my Mustang. As soon as he laid me on the trunk of my Mustang, I'm looking right at him. I heard his voice says, I've done my part, now the rest is up to you. I looked around, I didn't see anybody around. I said, hey, did you hear that? He said, hear what? You didn't hear that? I had the Saul experience. I'm going, man, that had to be God talking to me. All that summer, I was petrified. Got to the point where I had one cast, one leg and a hip cast. The other one I had already taken off, because I was destined to live my life of sin. Long story short, God got my attention and saved me. God saved me from myself. He saved me from ODing. He saved me from getting killed by somebody. He saved me from so many different things. And it all started that night. Why I'm telling you all this? But see, I realized that I was searching for God. And I was searching for God through all these holy books. When I got around to the Bhagavad Gita, I read the Bhagavad Gita. The minute I saw one error in it, I pushed it aside. I read Confucius' saying. I read the Quran. And when I read the Quran, I found an error in it. I just pushed it aside. Now, one of the things that made the Bible stand out different than the other books was these holy books were things that people based their lives upon. We find out that the Bhagavad Gita, it was actually made about 1500 BCE, 1500 years before Christ. And 1500 years before Christ is really interesting that this book had prophecy in it. It told about things like, oh, if you don't take care of your body, you're going to die young. Okay, that's prophetic. We understand that. It talks about things like this, about children disobeying their parents. Okay, that's prophetic. That's speaking about things. But you know what? That's common sense also. We see that happen in everyday life. I can predict that this whole city is going to be demoralized because people are not taking care of their bodies. They're drinking the wrong thing, snorting the wrong thing. So on and so, you know, well, it's prophecy though. But I figured the Bible had to be different than that. I found out that the Quran took it a step higher. The Quran was written 600 years after Jesus Christ. The Quran said that the Romans were going to conquer the Persians. Okay, I can take that. But you know what? The Bible was written 1,200 years before Christ. The Old Testament. The New Testament was compiled 70 years after Christ. You know what it said about the Romans and the Persians? It said that the Babylonian kingdom was the first kingdom to dominate the whole world. The Bible said this before the Babylonian kingdom even came into existence. Then it said the Babylonian kingdom was not going to be defeated by the Persians, but defeated by an alliance. The Medes and the Persians in their coalition, they defeated the Babylonians. And then Alexander the Great came along, the Greeks, and defeated the Persians and the Medes. But then the Bible also mentioned that the Roman Empire would conquer the Greek Empire. All this was told in the Bible. I'm going, oh, the Bible kind of stands out a little bit different than other books. When it talks about prophecy, it's not talking about 2 months down the road, not even talking about 1 year down the road. It's talking about 100 years, 1,000 years down the road. Do you know the Bible has things in it that they're just now discovering that are scientifically accurate, that are anthropology correct? They're finding things that are biology correct, finding things that geography are correct. Even right now, they're just not finding stuff written in the Bible years ago. So that makes the Bible stand out different than other books. Do you know the first book that was printed in multiplicity was the Bible? Do you know that Bible means book? Biblios, book. Interesting. It's not a coincidence. But what's the first thing they wanted to take out of school? The Bible. Nobody say anything about taking the Quran out of the Bible, out of schools. I ain't heard nobody say anything about taking the Baba Gita out of schools. But they want to take the Bible out because the Bible holds truth. The Bible holds the way for men to be free. Now, when we went to the game, they didn't say this, but when we played baseball in the neighborhood, when we hear the crack of that ball, we say, heads up. That means we want everybody to pay attention. So when I do like this, I want you to say heads up. Now, that's not warning anybody because they didn't hear you. When you hear that ball crack, you want people to know, look up. You say heads up. Heads up. That's right. One more time. Heads up. That's right. So when I do that, you say heads up. That was weak. You say heads up. That's right. You want people to pay attention. We got to get people's heads out of the ground. You know, ostrich, when it gets afraid, it sticks its head in the ground. Some kind of way, it does not realize that most of its body is above the ground. But it figures out because the head is in the ground that it's safe. Well, people are like that. People don't want to read things. They don't want to study things. They don't want to check things out. Okay, you got insurance on your car. You got an insurance quote from one company. That's good. And you sign right there. No, you didn't. You got one insurance quote. You got a second insurance quote. And you got a third insurance quote. You want to make sure you got the best price for the insurance for where you lived at based upon your driving. You don't just do one thing. You check things out. I told you about me being an angel. All the different aspects, I was an angel. When I started reading the Bible, I said, okay, Jesus Christ is the light. Does that mean he's the light that's bright enough to where I will not be in darkness? Does that mean that he's the light was in light hue? Does that mean that he's light where he's bright and understands things intellectual wise? Does that light that mean he has luminous? And you know, I explored it in all different ways. If you really want to know something, you ask. We had children. When our children were younger, we know that they spent their allowance up. And all of a sudden now, our whole group is going to the movies. They want to go to the movies. So they can come to you and ask for money, advance on their allowance, or just ask for money to go to the movies. But they didn't always do that. And you know they wanted to go to movies, but you didn't always say, here,